Hello everyone, how are you on this Wednesday morning? Bess McCarty here, Victoria, Kansas, and this is the MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show, where we cover one personal growth book a month and about one chapter a day. Today we are on The High Performance Habits of Successful People by Brendon Burchard. And today I'm on a chapter about being aware of the traps. I always look and see, well, hey Jeff, thank you for sharing over to the MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show Facebook group. That group is where you can find 700 replays of past shows that we've done. And you can also get a free ebook of John Maxwell's there, and also find a wonderful company of almost 600 other MLM leaders. This whole show and that Facebook group is sponsored by our generic school for network marketers, the MLM Millionaire Academy. This school has been in existence for 10 years, and Jeffrey David Gamble and I have been teaching in it the last 2 years. I'm very proud that what we present is the best I've ever seen in this whole profession, about how to approach people, how to invite and present in the best, easiest, simplest way. It's heads above anything I've ever seen. I invite you to check it out. I will put a link below. But meanwhile, you could check it out at the MLMMillionaireClub.com/basics. MLMMillionaireClub.com/basics. Club is the old name, getting a new website, but now we're calling it the Academy because it is really a school, a generic school for network marketers. So love to have you check it out and be part of the successful people who are using these methods to jump ranks. And people seem to love the teaching that Jeff and I do in there. It's become very, very well received and good feedback. So today, the chapter is avoid these 3 traps. Actually, let's see, the name of the chapter is, beware of the 3 traps. And I'll tell you right away what they are. And that is beware of superiority, dissatisfaction, and neglect. And I'm going to be reading you a few quotes out of here because they are so good. One of them is from Julius Caesar. The William Shakespeare in the play Julius Caesar says, "The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves." So this is again taking that humility to, to be able to take responsibility for our part and to be able to improve it. So he starts out with this cool story. Brendon Burchard, he goes to do some consulting, and thank you for the likes and loves. And by the way, if you're watching replay, please type that in because I'd like to thank you from it, and I do like to hear where you're watching from. I'm watching from Hayes, Kansas. It's been really hot here, like, almost up to triple digits many days, but we got an inch of rain last night, so it's really a refreshing, cool morning that we had today. So I'd like to hear where you're from. Where in the world are you from? Okay, so Brendon Burchard starts out in this book, High Performance Habits, Brendon Burchard. I think it's very good, contains a lot of, down-to-earth advice. And in this particular chapter, I do pay attention to what chapters. Usually this show is presented by Jeffrey David Gamble and Brandy Pember, Monday through Friday, except on Wednesdays I present. But you can always find both of us, all of us, if you want to find us in one place, look at the MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show. So when my Wednesday comes up, I say, okay, that chapter, there's a special message in here for me, and the message here is don't let your ego fool you. Okay, I have done this, and you'll see as I read here, there's a few tips in here that maybe you could also recognize yourself. So Brendon starts out with this story where he's going to consult with this company, and somebody that he's already coached says, "Hey, look, there's the leader of this meeting, Dreadful Don." And he goes, "Why do you say that? He looks like he's well dressed and he's done a good presentation." And he said, he just said, "Well, he's a total jerk, And he said, "Well, I don't get it. If he's a total jerk, then why don't people abandon him and then his business will crash?" And he goes, "Oh, they already have. He just doesn't know it yet." So Brendon talks with Don after he does his presentation. He thinks it's a pretty good presentation. And there's Shamala. I recognize your little profile picture. Thank you for being on, Shamala. talking about ego at the moment. Beware the three traps as people get successful. So he talks with Dawn, and he said, how do you think your presentation went? He goes, oh, it could be better and all that. And he goes, well, how do you think it was received by the audience? And he goes, oh, they don't get it. You know, it's lonely at the top. Nobody gets you. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And Brenda didn't say anything, and he said, you can tell me what you're thinking. I can handle it. And Brendon says, okay, great. He says, I think you have 6 months tops before you totally destroy your career. Then Brendon goes on to explain that he has surveyed 500 top performers to say rose to the, like within the top 15% of their company or their category, and that fell. And why did they fall? And he found it came down to 3 things. Some of the indicators of these types of people is they feel that they're separate from other people. They're better than other people, more important. They're never satisfied, which sucks passion and leads to overcommitment and being burned out. So he surveyed these people, and he found that when they fell from grace, it was due to these 3 things that I mentioned: superiority, dissatisfaction, and neglect. And when they rose back up again to success, it was due to the 6 habits that he mentions in this book. And the 6 habits that he teaches in this book are: seek clarity, generate energy, raise necessity, increase productivity, develop influence, and demonstrate courage. So that is what we've covered so far in this book in the earlier chapters. So here he's talking about, you know, the downfalls when people deviate from this and what happens. And welcome, Teddy. How are you? Haven't seen you for a little while. Thank you for being here. We're talking about the habits, the traps that will trip people up unknowingly and make them fall from leadership and fall from success. So he said the three things again are superiority, dissatisfaction, and neglect. And I'm going to cover those in a little bit. He said, but first let me just tell you what was not the issue. Fear was not the issue for these 500 people he surveyed. Competence was not the issue. Other people was not the issue, even though we like to blame. Creativity was not the issue. Motivation was not the issue. And resources was not the issue for their fall. Very interesting. He said the real traps are internal, not something we can blame outside. Negative patterns of thinking, feeling, and behaving that slowly kill our humanity, our zest, and our well-being. Those are the 3 traps. Again, that feeling superior, dissatisfied, and neglecting things. Okay, so let's start with superiority. John Maxwell says there's 2 kinds of pride, good and bad. Good pride represents our dignity and self-respect, and bad pride is a deadly sin that reeks of conceit and arrogance. All right, so we can have a healthy ego. You know, as a body-mind therapist, I'll say that I'm a body-mind therapist. I bring this back to work with network marketers because I was one full-time, but I'm not now. I'm a dedicated generic coach for network marketers because I know I can help more people this way and train teams and everything. But as a body-mind therapist, which I bring to network marketing, I know that we need ego. It's their confidence, right? There's a good part. That's the confidence. But the unhealthy ego is the conceit and the ignorance that separates and that does not let me see my faults or improve myself or seek other people's feedback about that. So that's the difference. And he said, high performers, it's easy for this to slip in and sneak in on us. You know, you're doing better than other people, so it's easy to get a big head. You start to feel special or separate or important. But you probably never say to you set out saying to yourself, okay, I'm gonna aspire to feeling superior. It just sneaks up on you. And he said it can be in little ways, you know, but probably we all got some of this if we take a look. And why not find the small ones before it gets looming and large and causes our downfall? So some of these small things is, he says, not asking your team to review your presentation and find its errors, omission, because you think, I got this, right? or failing to review your work because it's always good. Dang. Yeah. Minimize someone else so you look better. Oops. Discounting another person's ideas because maybe they haven't been in it as long as you are. It draws us off track a quarter inch at a time, he says, and we begin acting like jerks. We stop asking other people for their input, and we lose awareness of other people's contributions. We kind of just devalue them or dismiss them, or to speak in tones of condensation. When we can spot this, we can stop buying into them. So it's when we think we're better, we don't need feedback, we automatically feel that we deserve other people's admiration or compliance because of who we are, the position we hold, or what we accomplish. You feel that people don't understand us. They just can't appreciate the situation or the tough things that I have to face every day. People just don't understand me. And he said that it's time to pop that bubble. He says all isolation is ultimately self-imposed. There's always someone who's gone through what you have and can help or assist. So he kindly tells people to abandon their sense of separateness. And welcome, Debbie. Hey, if anyone here has ever felt any of these things, please type in yes, because then I know that, we're all in good company. We're all human. We're all learning this together. It's okay. It's okay to spot our ego and our uncoachability and be able to turn that around. So I hope that this is what it's doing for us. I hope that this chapter is helping us to spot these things and be able to turn them around. But he said, you're not alone. Being alone, I have been alone, or I felt separate, I felt misunderstood a whole lot of my life. I think I grew up that way. I think differently than most people. People don't get me. I have to face this alone. Nobody else thinks the way I do. I felt really different than other people growing up, being an entrepreneur and a spiritual person and everything. But that kept me separate and kept me lonely and kept me stunted from really growing and realizing the help and the friends and the commonality that I do have with people around me. I think that one reason I came back to my hometown was to help family, to help my mother pass away, or to help take care of her in her later years. But I think spiritually, one reason I got back to my hometown was so that I could meet my old high school friends that I felt so separate from, so different from, and say, hey, they are good people. And look at all we have in common. And to find bonds of friendship and love with them once again. So I got to come back and kind of heal my old past ways and feel like I'm a part of, rather than that I never belonged. That was all self-imposed. So fortunately, I've got to and am getting to work on that and heal that. And welcome, Debbie, and everyone here. So glad to see you. If anyone has a takeaway, I'd love to hear that. And if you have a question or a tip or a comment or story or something to add to what I'm saying so we can learn from you, I'd love to hear that too. Okay, so to keep ourselves from feeling separate, he says, realize that we are not alone. That's self-imposed. We're not the first person that's gone through this. There is always help and support. There's a support group for everything, just about, or a mastermind group or a Facebook group for anything that we could be going through. We have help. He says, discounting others makes us separate. We must understand that we are still students of life, no matter how far we've gone or how much we think we know. We're not better than anyone else. It's just that we may have gotten more exposure to that topic or that experience. We may have started earlier, is what I heard another person say. I'm not better than anyone else. I just started earlier at this. So the trap is when we're so certain, that we're better, that we're at the top, and we deserve people's admiration, people that understand us and all that. But humility, this is what humility does for us. It brings fidelity, cooperation, compassion for others, strong social bonds, generates group acceptance, optimism, hope, decisiveness, comfort, openness to new experience, willingness to admit gaps in our knowledge and be able to learn from them and to improve ourselves. So here's some Ideas to combat that. Deliberately seek others' ideas for improving anything you do. I do like to ask people what went well, as far as a class, a presentation, or coaching with me or anything. What went well? What would you have liked to have done differently for you within that class or that presentation or that coaching session? And he said, if you find your thinking's not being challenged enough, by asking your peers or clients or your team, then hire someone. Hire someone who has a different viewpoint, maybe who's trained in this, like a coach, a trainer, or therapist. Or find a mentor and meet with them regularly so that you can get that outside viewpoint. I'm too close to myself to see my own strengths and weaknesses and what I could do better or how I compare with other people. I'm too close to myself. I don't have that viewpoint of other people. So I can ask people around me. I can hire someone to give me that feedback, someone trained in this. So he said, remind yourself that trust is earned. It's not something you automatically get. It's trust is earned through caring with others, not bragging. Caring for others, not about bragging about yourself. Trust is earned by caring for others. And then take ownership of your actions by admitting mistakes and learning from them and being willing to improve. And finally, keep reminding yourself of blessings. It says gratitude and humility are kind of hand in hand. And the more that we're grateful for things, the more humble we might be. Okay, number 2 trap. We're on to number 2, which is dissatisfaction. And Marcus Aurelius says, be satisfied with success in even the smallest matter, and think that even such a result is no trifle. In other words, Brendon's saying here, be happy with ourselves, because when we're in eternal dissatisfaction, some people like that. They go, oh, this will keep me moving forward. This will motivate me to keep advancing forward. And he goes, no, you can be satisfied and content and happy and still want to take the next step and still move forward. Because when we carry around that dissatisfaction with us, and I'm not good enough, and I have to keep, hustling or keep putting myself down to motivate myself to get better, that robs us of the energy. And he says now, a lot of people I know, I've coached a lot of people, and some say success motivates me, and other people say fear motivates me, or putting myself down motivates me to keep moving forward. But when you think about it, how does that make you feel? Does that add to your, if you never stop and are grateful for your successes and acknowledge yourself and feel some pride in your successes, if you never do that, are you, in the end, long range, are you going to feel motivated to keep going or not? So he says one of the things that you can do is to write down at the end of a day, kind of a gratitude list of what went. Start journaling each day and write down 3 things at the end that went well or better than expected. Keeps you high performer performing high, because it gives you more gas, it gives you more motivation and positivity. Or even he said, get your family and team together once a week just to talk about what's working, what people are excited about, and the difference that your efforts make in other people's lives. And start meetings by asking others to share one great thing that happened that day. Wouldn't that generate a lot of positive energy? And he said that doesn't mean settling. No, it means taking pleasure in what is and realizing there's always going to be a plus element in all eternity. Don't dwell on the negative. Accept the negative. Okay, this is what I can do better, but also this is what went well. And that kind of gives me the gas to keep forward rather than, wearing out. Remember, he said this is one of the 3 deadly traps that sabotage successful people. Okay, trap number 3 is neglect. Roger Babson said, when things are not going well with you, begin your effort at correcting the situation by carefully examining the service you're rendering, and especially the spirit that you're rendering it with. So are you doing all that you said you need to or agreed to do? And are you doing it with kindness, love, respect, rather than resentment? I know the story of a mother who decided she was going to stop cooking for her family. She said because she resented it. She resented cooking for them. She did not like doing it. And then rather than keep doing it with resentment, she was going to stop. And this is after she saw a famous speaker named Marshall Rosenberg. And the family, they saw him speak, and he says, do something with love or don't do it. And she goes, okay, I'm going to stop cooking for the family. And the family told him that the next day, and he thought they were mad at him. And they go, no, we want to thank you. We want to thank you because we are now free of all her resentment that she did it with. And it wasn't fun for anybody. It wasn't fun for them either. So, how are we doing it? I'm sure that they didn't go hungry. I'm sure they found another solution. But she stepped out of doing it, unless she could do it with love. And so with neglect, you've heard of marriages that the couples, one or more of the couples stopped tending to the marriage, stopped giving to the marriage, and it died out of neglect. So would a garden. If we don't take care of it, thin it out, weed it, water it, fertilize it, that garden will just shrivel up and die. In the hot summer sun here in Kansas, I can see which gardens or parts of the yards are dying from neglect and no water, and which ones are being tended to. And it's the same thing with their business. If we think we're too high and mighty to take care of the small things, to do what we said that we will do, people can feel that. So here's some tips from Brendon. Write down an area where I'm neglecting someone or something important in my life is. Remember, neglect is like water. Attention is like water or sunshine. It makes things grow. And you remove that, they shrivel and die. An area where neglect will cause me regret later on is an area where I can now return my focus to things that matter is. Some areas in my life where I feel overcommitted right now are. Things I learned to need to say no to are. An opportunity I really want to chase now that I could schedule to revisit a few months in a few months is. In other words, something I really want, but I could put it off. The main things moving the needle toward my successes I should be focused on right now, despite other exciting, shiny objects that want to tempt us. And lastly, the way I'll remind myself not to take on too much is, because when we could neglect our loved ones, our family, the things that we've committed to. Hope this helps. High Performance Habits by Brendon Burchard. And this was actually section 3. It doesn't have a chapter, but the chapter called Beware of 3 Traps. Tomorrow will be the number one thing. And Jeff and Brandy will present that. You can find them over at the MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show. Find all these shows Monday through Friday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. We'd love if you share with people. Thank you for being here. If you got a tip today or takeaway, I'd love to hear that below. If you have a question, tip, story, a comment, if you agree or disagree. If this has worked for you, please type yes below or type any of those things. I'd like to keep learning from you. Let's keep the discussion going. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you tomorrow, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time at the MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show, and every Monday through Friday. And thank you. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.